Paper Mario's back! Paper Mario's finally back! Yes, it's true, the old-fashioned Paper Mario style that everybody loved is back with this just wonderful remake, and I'm here to review it. Bet you didn't see that one coming. This review is going to be kind of a combination talking about the modernizations and quality of life improvements that came with the remake, and it's also just sort of going to be a review of the original game itself. I can't believe I'm actually reviewing a brand new version of Thousand Year Door. I thought this day would never come, but here we are, it has. So with all that out of the way, I'm NateBob27, and let's get on to the video. Let's go. But before we go, come on, I know that you know what I'm gonna say here. The biggest mistake that people who watch my content make is not subscribing. And why on earth would you not do that? Subscribing is free, it's easy, it's quick, it's undoable if you want to change your mind. So go ahead and exit full screen, scroll down to the subscribe button and hit it, and boop the like button while you're at it. But with that out of the way, let's get on to the video for real this time. So first off, I'm just gonna review the actual Thousand Year Door game itself, then later get into the whole remaster, remake, modernization stuff. Okay, that sounds good with you? Let's get into it. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is just great. It's just great, you guys. The story, I can't even know how I can humanly tell you just how deep and different this game is compared to all other Mario games. Even the first ever Paper Mario pales in comparison to the Thousand Year Door's world. All the writing and the emotional elements, it's just all so deep, man, for a stinking Mario game. This game is super good about introducing new characters and making you care about them all the way to the very end of the game. Because even though you do get new partners, you can still keep your old partners, and outside of areas and sequences where you absolutely need your new partner to progress, you can just swap to your old partner if you like them better, and that helps you build a stronger emotional relationship with them because you experience more of them than in the first game where you couldn't really switch to your old partner because you absolutely needed your old one to progress through the newest area. Also, I love how the characters are introduced to you because yeah, most of the time they're introduced to you with big flashy cutscenes or with confrontational battles or from hatching from an egg, but sometimes they're just sitting there waiting to talk to you or waiting for you to talk to them, and then you start a relationship with them. A lot like how you meet and acquire friends in the real world, which is an element of the story and characters I really do like. Also, the bad guy and the whole world and story thing is super complex, and no spoilers, but it gets really deep and really complicated towards the end, and there's even a whole kind of secret villain, and also the Peach sequences where you try to uncover little things about the bad guys and send stuff to Mario, and talking to the robot guy that has a crush on Peach who wants her to dance with them or just tell him what the real meaning of love is. It just adds so much lore to the whole world and just these characters, which is a lot more than I bargained for just a stupid silly little Paper Mario game. But all that's just the story stuff. The real reason Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is one of the best games ever is the gameplay. First off, the badge system. The badges in this game add so much strategy and customization to the gameplay, and yes, they do make the game pretty easy, especially in the late game when you just have a ton of super overpowered badges and you just sort of stomp everything to death. And remind yourself, you can equip 30 of these badges because you have 100 badge points by the end of the game if you're leveling strategically. But in the early to mid game, it's still pretty difficult even with these badges, and if you don't have a lot of BP, if you haven't been leveling very strategically, then it's super strategic and customizable to try and find out which badges you want to equip and which badges you want to keep, and trying to find out what kind of build you're going to go with, which is a thing I like in any RPG like Dark Souls or Skyrim, just sort of building out your own character with customizing and with badges and leveling up. It's one of my favorite things about RPGs in general, and especially this game, which really sort of set the formula for Paper Mario and Mario RPGs later to come if they weren't to go completely off course with Sticker Star, but that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother day. But also another thing about the gameplay is the combat, because the badge system just adds to the combat so much. Do you want to level BP and FP a lot so you can use a bunch of badge attacks and use up a whole bunch of FP and just have a bunch of like honey syrups in your inventory? Or do you want to focus more on leveling health and focus less on badge attacks and more just normal attacks? Or do you want to make the game easier on yourself with lucky heart badges and small chances of getting increased FP during battles? Do you want to go hardcore mode and not use any items or badges and just fight with normal attacks and no items like mushrooms or honey syrups? And this is on top of the action commands. If you do want to use an attack, are you even capable of pulling it off, or are you going to mess up the action command? Also, you need to take into account which partners do you have. Do you want to tattle on them with Goombella, or do you want to use more universal attacks with Koops? Or do you want to body slam and blow people around with Madame Fleury? Or do you want to equip a badge that makes it so that you can just hit enemies on the overworld without even having to battle them first? It's a bunch to take in consideration, and it's a really big thing I like about Paper Mario, and it makes me really sad how they fumbled combat in later games like Color Splash and Origami King, where they implemented these weird ring puzzles and painting mechanics. Why can't they just do it like this in Thousand Year Door, where it's so strategic and fun and customizable? It's definitely one of the best turn-based combat systems in any game I've played, or really any turn-based combat game ever. And the world isn't all that bad either. You have a bunch of areas to explore, and even the first ever area you land in, Rogueport, has a bunch of little places to explore and a bunch of secrets, and also a bunch of shops and NPCs to talk to. And I really do recommend that on your first playthrough, right when you land in Rogueport, you really explore it and find all the little secrets and references. And even outside of Rogueport, there are a bunch of super cool and beautiful vistas you get to visit out in the huge interconnected world. There are a ton of unique towns, biomes, races, and all kinds of fun stuff to discover and interact with on your first playthrough. And if you really look for it, there is a ton of lore and references in this world. And if you really want to comb through the game for secrets, you can even find things you can't do yet and have to come back later with the brand new ability you get late game and do the thing you couldn't do before and get a super cool late game item. And also the music in all of these areas is super good. It's all beautifully composed and perfectly fitting for the area. Most of the tracks have this electronic-y twang to it that really fits the style of the game. But one major problem I have with this remake is they changed the music. Listen to the track of Petal Meadows in the original version. And now listen to the same music but in the remake. It's very slightly different, and it also lost that kind of electronic-y twang to it and now focuses more on actual instruments, which is a detail I do like, but I do vastly prefer the older soundtrack. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal, and even some of these new tracks outclass the originals, so it's not that much of a thing to get angry over. And speaking of remakes, that's a pretty perfect segue right there, because we finally have gotten to the part of this review where I talk about the remake, and this remake is pretty darn amazing. First off, the obvious fact, yes, it brought it to modern consoles, which is super fun now that new people can experience this game, and it also modernizes and fixes up this game perfectly. I have very few problems with the original game, like backtracking and item management can be a pretty big pain in the original, but in this remake, they expanded the item count to 15, making the game much more easier, yes, but it also fixes the item management problem, and they also patched out all the backtracking, making that a non-issue now. Also, there are a lot of quality of life improvements like dialogue. In the original game, whenever somebody was talking, the text box sound effect was just a normal noise. Now it's different for every person. Goombas make a Goomba-y noise, and stuff like Ghosts makes a ghostly noise. I think it's a pretty cool touch. And there are other numerous quality of life improvements, like, I don't know about you, but battle time is a wee bit faster, which is a really good thing, because one of my biggest problems with Pokemon games like Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet is that battles take forever, and it wasn't that bad in the original, but it was definitely something, and in this remake, it definitely feels a lot faster. And now, if you want to swap out partners on the field, it's a lot easier because now you have something adjacent to, like the weapon wheel from Breath of the Wild, and the visuals. My gosh, the visuals look so good! There's a lot of glossy textures and brand new facial animations for talking characters, which is greatly appreciated, and a whole brand spanking new lighting system that just makes the game look so good, especially in these more lighting themed areas like Hooktail Castle or Petal Meadows, where the lighting makes the greens and blues just look so much more bright and vibrant and cartoony. It all just looks so good, man. And it does all of this in the 900p resolution of the Switch docked mode and 720p native graphics of the handheld mode. And in both modes, it just looks so crisp. The TV, you could not convince me that that is 900p because it looks so much like 1080p, and on the handheld console, it's so small I can't even notice the difference. But all these cool visuals come at a cost. The game only runs at 30 FPS, while the original runs at 60 FPS. And while I don't really care about this because I feel Paper Mario is one of those games that's better suited for a low frame rate and good visuals, more than some more action-heavy games like shooters or platformers that need that high frame rate, it still irks a lot of people, and I can see why, because the action commands are a little bit janky now because of it, and like I said, I don't really care though. And if the reason you're not buying this stellar remake of a game style that's been dormant for decades now, and this remake that you're refusing to buy because of a stupid frame rate, maybe this series' last chance to really be good again, then that's your decision. I disagree with you, but if you don't want to buy this once in a lifetime remake just because of a stupid meh frame rate, then that's your decision. I can't make you buy it. So there you go. That was my review of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door Remake. What do you think of this remake? Do you think the 30 FPS is a big problem, or are you like me and you don't really care? Did you play this game on the GameCube and loved it, or did you hate it, or did you not even play it on the GameCube at all and just played it here, or have you never played this game in your life, and not even the remake, and you're never going to, and you're just watching this video for the hell of it? Whatever it is, tell me in the comments down below, and I'll see you, my friend, in the next video.